Okay, before we begin, let's take a few moments to worship the Supreme One, the Flawless One, the Infinitely Compassionate One, the Sublime One, the Supreme Buddha. To do this, can you all be upstanding and recite Namaskar with me? Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay. You may all now be seated. Before we inaugurate, let's take a few moments to make a firm determination. May the qualities of the great Arahats be part and parcel of my lives. May the qualities of the Arahats whose every footstep was a blessing to the earth. May their qualities seep into my heart. May I also obtain these qualities. May I be like them. And may I attain the supremeness of Nibbana. And also, let's not forget that we've been in samsara for a very long time. And we may have associated terrible people. And therefore, we may have abused, slandered, shouted at, swore at these Arahats, these Pacceka Buddhas, Samma Sambuddhas, Arahat Buddhas, and anyone who's on the path who haven't attained the fruit. With a humble heart, knowing that what we did was wrong, let us ask for their forgiveness, and let us be forgiven. You know, going through in life, we are not saints, right? We're not angels. So we make mistakes here and there, but there are times in life where we are blamed, we are shouted at, we get told off for things we haven't done. And that's definitely a case for the young children, right? Children get blamed for things that they haven't done. And yet, when this happens to us, how do we feel? How do we react? Usually we react with anger. We react with hatred. We'll keep fighting until we're proven right. Now the question is that the way of the Arahats? Is that the way that the Arahats solve their problems? With violence, with verbal abuse, with shouting, swearing, with hatred. You see, usually we're told off for very small things, and yet we get that angry. But what happens if you get told off for something that could get you expelled, suspended from school, get you fired from work, make you go to prison, have a life sentence? You see, the Arahat that we're going to talk about today, he had been framed for something that he hadn't done. And if it was proven correct, he would have been kicked out, exiled from the ministry. So today, we're going to talk about the most venerable, Dabba Mallaputha. His story began 1,000 eons ago, at the time of the Buddha Padmuttara. He was born as a son of a rich merchant in the town of Hansavati. You see, his family was very religious. They would go to the temple very often. They would worship the Buddha, give alms. And so it wasn't a surprise that their child was also very religious. But you see, at that time, there were not just one religion, not just 10, but hundreds. And you can imagine when this child went to school, he was probably influenced by all of his friends. But yet, because of his parents, he followed his parents and was a practicing Buddhist. You see, one day, he decided he wanted to go to the temple and listen to a sermon. So before he went, he showered, dressed himself in clean white clothes, picked flowers, and took with him some oil, some candles, incense sticks, and the flowers he had picked, and he went to this monastery. When he went inside, he saw the Buddha Padmuttara. He fell onto his knees and worshipped him, and sat in the crowd, ready to listen to this sermon. You see, that sermon wasn't a normal sermon. You see, at the end of that sermon, the Buddha Padmuttara bestowed a title to a certain monk. the foremost among monks, to assign monks' quarters. Now, this young man saw this. This is a very rare event because a Buddha would only give that title once. Having seen it, he was elated. He was so happy to see a monk get this title. Think about it. The foremost among monks, to assign lodgings, to assign monks' quarters. And then the seed. The seed was planted in his mind. You know what? I want to be like him. I want to also be the foremost in another sasana, in another ministry. So he went to his father, went to his mother, and begged them for money. Now normally, children, young adults, when they beg for money for what? Either to go out, to eat out, to have fun. But this child, he was begging for money to give alms to the Buddha and the Mahasangha. You see, he had a good intention. His parents knew and could trust him. And so they gave a lot of money. And so we can guess that this child wasn't very old. He was a young adult, say around the age 16 to 25. He was being given money, and now he's planning his own almsgiving. And he gave the best he possibly could. He planned his own almsgiving, not for one day, for 7 days straight. The finest food, the finest robes. He decorated the place, laid out everything to the best he possibly could. He gave alms for 7 days. Now, at the end of the 7 days, his heart was filled with joy. He had given alms for 7 days. And on the 7th day, he went to the Buddha, fell onto his knees, and said, Venerable Sir, the Great One, may I one day, in the future, be like that monk. You know, the monk you gave the title, the foremost among monks, to assign monks' quarters. I want to be like him. I want to be like that person, like that monk. Now, using the Buddha's supernatural powers, he looked to the future and saw, yes, this child will. His goal will be fulfilled. And so he gave the prophecy. Child, in another 100,000 eons, in the Okaka clan, the Buddha Gautama will arise. And in his ministry, you will ordain. You will be called Dabba Mallaputha. And yes, you will be heir to his Dharma. And yes, you will be the foremost among monks to assign monks' quarters. Hearing this young child was ecstatic. He couldn't control his happiness. After worshipping the Buddha, he ran out of the monastery. And due to this happiness, he kept giving and giving and giving and giving, accumulating more and more merits until he passed away. And due to all the merits he acquired, he was born in the Tushta heavens. And in the Tushta heavens, he lived a life of luxury, had everything he wanted. He just needed a wish for it, and it would appear. He lived a life of luxury for so long that he became a human again at the time of the Buddha Vipassi, the Buddha with beautiful eyes. You see, in this life, he wasn't that lucky though. In that life, as he grew up, he was unfortunate to befriend some friends. These friends were not just normal friends, they were terrible people. So he fell into bad associations. And bad associations mean bad views, and they give terrible influence. So one day, he went and met an Arahant, fully knowing well that that monk was an Arahant for a small mistake that the Arahant did. A mistake that he knew wasn't intentional. Started to shout, started to swear at this Arahant, knowing fully well that he was an Arahant. All because of what? What was the cause for all this? What was the cause for his actions? His bad association, his influence. His influence drove him to do this bad. His influence drove him to shout and swear at Arahant. And as you know, Doing such a thing is an Arahant. An Arahant is basically a deliberate insult towards a normal person. Whether it's a Sotapanna or Arahant, it doesn't matter. And Aripadas are things that block your path to Nibbana. But you see, he had a friend. He had a group of friends who saw this. And instead of turning a blind eye, decided, my good friend, what you did back there was wrong. You know that the Arhat didn't mean to do it. It was such a small mistake. Go ask for his forgiveness. Go do merits, or else you'll be born in the 4 great hells. Hearing this young man's heart shook. He understood that he realized what he did was wrong. And so, he decided he wanted to ask for forgiveness, but yet, because of his pride, because of his bad association, and because he was ashamed, he couldn't face that Arhat. And so instead, he started doing a lot of merits. He gave delicious milk rice to every other monk, except the one he did wrong to, because of his shame, because he was guilty, because of his pride. And with that in his heart, he unfortunately passed away before asking for forgiveness. And after some time in Sansara, he was again born in the time of Buddha Kashyapa. But unfortunately, he was born near the end of his ministry. Towards the end of his reign, the tail end of his reign. The Buddha Kashyapa had already passed away, and his ministry was crumbling. People were doing the exact opposite of what the Buddha had advised. People were not practicing their path. You see, even monks, they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. They were trying to be the best in very petty pursuits, very useless things. They are trying their best to be the best, higher than everyone else. And they start spreading bad ideas. They start spreading lies. They started deceiving others. A group of friends, after knowing that the Buddha Kashyapa had passed away, after hearing his Dharma, decided, the ministry is now ending. We have near the end of the Buddhist ministry. By the way it's going, within no time, there won't be a ministry. So they started talking among themselves, saying, we ordained not to be the best in these petty pursuits. We ordained to stop suffering once and for all. That was our aim. That was our goal. So let's go and start meditating. Let us all go and strive to attain Nibbana. And so they decided, these 7 friends decided to go to a forest. You see, none of them knew if they've actually achieved any attainments, but they were determined. They wanted to do it. You see, one day in this forest, they saw a big mountain, a big rock, and each of these 7 friends, 7 monks, looked up and saw that it was a very suitable place to meditate. And so, using bamboo, they made a big ladder and scaled this rock. After reaching the top, they started talking among themselves, saying, you know what, we have ordained to stop suffering. Let us make a determination. We will not come down off this rock until we become an Arhat. We shall not step off this rock. Saying that, they pushed and toppled the ladder over. You see, when they pushed that ladder over, it meant there's no turning back. They can't now go back down. They didn't have any food. They didn't have anything. Just a rock. You see, the oldest monk gathered all the monks and started to preach, saying, it is rare to see the Buddha. It is rare to be in his ministry. So, make use of this opportunity. Take this chance and strive. Brothers, let's strive to attain Nibbana. Let's all practice the path. Within the first few days, the eldest monk became an Arhat. He became an Arhat and he decided he was going to descend from the rock and go beg for alms and bring some food for his fellow monks. And so he descended using his supernatural powers that he had attained by meditating, and went begging for alms and He went back to his rock and called his fellow monks over and said, "Dear friends, please take this meal. Take this meal and use this meal's energy and strive on your path." You see, the other 6 monks thought about this. And one of them said, "Did we push this ladder down? So when one of us becomes an Arahant, they can go down this rock and collect some food to feed us?" And the rest of them replied saying, "No, that's not why we pushed this ladder down. We pushed this ladder down so we can strive to attain Nibbana. We didn't agree on that, so no." So the monk said, "Venerable sir, sadhu sadhu, you have completed your path. You have completed the journey. Go, rest. Spend the rest of your life in peace. But let us monks strive as well." Hearing this, the Arahant, seeing that they won't accept his food, descended from the rock and went looking for a place to stay. You see, the next few days, another one became an Anagami, but unfortunately died and went to Suddhavasa. But the other 4 monks, unfortunately, each of these 4 monks died of starvation. But as they had a great resolve to protect their virtues, when each of them passed away, they were born in the heavens. And after their life in the heavenly planes came to an end, one of them were born in Gandhara Takshila city. One of them were born in the Pabhita country as a son of a priestess. Another one was born in Bahia. Another one was born in Rajagaha. The last one was born in the country of Malla and as a son of King Anupiya. And that was, you guessed it, Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. You see, Venerable Dabba Mallaputha, before he was born, so when he was conceived, due to his past karmas, his mother, while he was still in her womb, passed away, and the king, the great king wife, had passed away. Not knowing that her child was still alive, they decided to give her a funeral. And at the end of the funeral, they decided to cremate her. Just remember, her child was still alive. And so they laid her on some wood, dried wood, and lit it up. And at that moment, the fires were ablaze. You see, because of all this heat, the pressure and gases were building up in this woman's stomach. And at the last moment, her stomach and womb exploded, and a small baby blasted out and landed on some soft grass. Now you can imagine how surprised the king was. The king was crying his heart out because his beloved wife had died and his beloved child had died. He didn't know, right? And so he was crying his heart out, and he saw this stomach growing in size and exploding. Now, seeing that was probably pretty gruesome, and probably he didn't even look. He probably looked away. But a baby flew out. His child flew out and landed on soft grass. You know, at a time where people were crying, people started to cheer, people started to shout, people started to celebrate. Why? The prince was born. The prince was extremely lucky. If the womb didn't explode, the baby would have burnt with his mother. And because of his luck, and because he landed on the soft grass, his father decided to name him Dabba. And as he lived in the country, Malla, he was called Dabba Malla. And as his mother had died, his grandmother decided to take care of him. You see, all this happened because of what? Because he did an Arihant. Now, you can imagine how painful it must have been to be in a womb that was burning, and how lucky he was to be born. So time passed. 7 years passed, to be precise. And the child, Dabba Mallaputha, grew up to be a very playful young boy. You see, at that time, the Buddha and the Mahasangha had entered a mango grove in Malla and decided to reside there. Now, this 7-year-old boy, this child, heard this. His grandmother told him this. And he begged his grandmother, "Please, grandmother, can we go see the Buddha, please?" And you probably can guess how he acted. Just like a 7-year-old asking for some sweet from a candy store. He was asking to see the Buddha. And his grandmother was very religious as well. And so his grandmother agreed, taking her grandchild with her, went to see the Buddha. Now, the moment this grandchild's eyes met the Buddha, tears of joy start to roll out. He was ecstatic, extremely happy. He was elated to see the Buddha, just seeing the Buddha. And that moment, this 7-year-old, just seeing the Buddha, thought, "You know what? I want to ordain." And so he went to his grandmother and asked for her permission. "Grandmother, can I please ordain? Can I please become a monk?" This grandmother knew the best thing that she could do to her child, to her grandchild, is to give him permission. So, the grandmother went to the Buddha and said, "Venerable sir, my grandchild has decided to ordain. I give my full consent. Can you please ordain him?" In that moment, the Buddha agreed. And on the same day, this grandchild ordained. Now, you remember in one of his previous lives, he was on that mountain, the rock, and he practiced his virtues. You see, practicing your virtues is not a small task. It's not something that has a very little result. You see, because he practiced his virtues, till his last breath, he didn't break his virtues. And so, in his last life, just when he was ordaining, his preceptor took this razor, or it used to be a barber's knife, right? And on the first shaving, he said the word kesha, which means hair. This young boy, this 7-year-old boy, this child became a sotapan. And after all of his hair had been shaven off, he had become an Arahant. Look how lucky that is. He became an Arahant. Why is that? Because of the virtues he had protected. Because all the merits he had done. He practiced his path. He practiced and protected his virtues diligently. And so, what he gave, he shall receive. When all of his hair had been shaved off, he had become an Arahant. And he resided in Veluvana monastery. You see, this young child, as he grew older, he was an Arahant, right? The idea came to him, how may I help the Sangha? Why? Because the Sangha had helped him. He knew that he had to help the Sangha. And so he thought, perhaps I could help assign dwellings for the Sangha and designate meals. Having thought that, Venerable Dabba Mallaputha went and approached the Buddha, worshipped him and said, "Venerable sir, I have completed my journey. And I was wondering, how can I help the Mahasangha? And so I thought I could help assign dwellings and designate meals." And so the Buddha said, "Okay, Dabba Mallaputha, please do." And so the Buddha went to the Mahasangha, the gathering of monks, and announced, "Please, monks, I ask the Sangha to listen. If it seems appropriate to the Sangha, Venerable Dabba Mallaputha should be the assigner of dwellings and the designator of meals. If you agree, you should remain silent. If anyone does not approve, please speak up." And he repeats it 2 and 3 times. And the last one he says, "The Sangha approves and is therefore silent. The Venerable Dabba Mallaputha will now be the assigner of dwellings and the designator of meals." And so this young monk had been given a big duty. He assigned dwellings to monks, and he did that according to their character. So for example, he would group monks who knew the Dharma very well, who excelled in the Dharma together, who excelled in the Vinaya, the discipline, together. And even monks who liked to talk a lot, he put them together. Why? Because he knew that if they put together, they'll start and recite discourses together. They'll start discussing the Dharma. He put the meditators together, the ones who enjoyed meditating, so they won't disturb one another. He would put the monks who didn't practice their path heedfully, instead didn't help the Mahasangha instead. He put them together. so they'll be happy. He thought about everyone when assigning these. So when monks arrived at night, he would enter Tejo Kasana, or the fire element, and he would make light emit from his fingers, like torches, like a big torch, and will help them go to their dwellings. You see, some monks would deliberately come late in the night. Why? So they can see his supernatural powers. Some of them would approach the Venerable and say, Venerable Dabba Mallaputha, please assign us a dwelling. And he'll ask, where would you like to stay? Some of them would intentionally say somewhere far, far away. So they'll say, like, please assign me a dwelling on Vulture's Peak, on the Robber's Cliff, on the Black Rock, on the slope of Isigli Hill, in the Satipatthani Cave, in the slope of Vibhara Hill, in a cool grove at the hill of the Snake Pool, at the Gomatta Gorge, near this river, near that river, in that park, in Jivaga's Mango Grove, in the deer park in Maddakuchi. And in that moment, he would enter this fire element, the Tejakasana, and his fingers would emit beams of light. He would make clones of himself and lead each monk to his dwelling. And so they followed this clone, and he would assign the dwelling and would show them the bed, the clean water, where you can get clean water, where the toilets were, where you can get water for washing, where everything is. And he would even explain the rules and regulations to every single monk. So you can imagine this very young monk going and cloning himself and using his fingers as torches would lead these monks. He would help each of these monks simultaneously, all at the same time. So it wasn't a surprise when he received the title, the foremost among monks, to assign dwellings, to assign monks' quarters. You see, one day, a servant called Punna, who used to work in a rice mill, she worked early in the morning to late at night, and yet she was poor. One day, after her late night shift was over, she went out and she saw something that she couldn't believe. She saw a light walking. She went a bit closer and saw it wasn't any old light. That was the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha leading a group of monks. And so she thought, why are they out late at night? They should be asleep. Maybe one of the monks are ill. And so, early next morning, after seeing this, she decided, you know what, I want to do something, but I don't have enough money. I don't have anything. And so she decided to go to work the next day. She had some remaining grains of rice. And so using that, she ground them and mixed them with water and toasted it. And she thought, you know what, I'm going to get some water back in the rice mill. And so, like that, she went to the rice mill. But on the way, she saw the Buddha. At that moment, she stopped. Her only meal that she would have that day, the only thing that she's going to eat that day, was the food that she just made. The grounded rice and water that she toasted. She was in a dilemma. Either she was going to offer it or she's not. If she offers it, or she's not. Will she offer it, or will she not? She knew if she offered it, she's not going to have something to eat. That she's going to lose that meal that day. But then she thought, you know what? Usually when I see the Buddha, I don't have anything to give. But today, I have something. It may not be much, but it's something. And so she went to the Buddha and offered it to him. But then she thought, well, the Buddha, if he goes a bit further, a lot of rich people will give him good food. And so he won't eat my food, the one I offered. The Buddha, having read her thoughts, said to Ananda, let me eat here. Hearing that, Punna the servant started to applause with joy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May, by the power of all the merits, may I be free from all suffering. May I be free from samsara. Having heard that, the Buddha said, your wish will be fulfilled. Now Punna was confused. How is that possible? All I did was offer grounded rice with water and toasted it and gave it to the Buddha. And normally, he would go on the same road and rich barons and merchants would give him the finest food. But when I gave something so small, I will be able to attain Nibbana. How is that possible? And then she remembered, it's because of my intention. This is the only thing I had. I didn't just sacrifice food. I sacrificed a meal as well. My only meal. So after the Buddha had his meal, and after he washed his hands, the Buddha asked Punna, what do you say when you saw my followers coming late at night from listening to the Dharma? Now Punna was surprised. Venerable Sir, I didn't say anything. I didn't know that they were coming from a sermon. I thought one of the monks were ill. Is any of them ill? The Buddha replied saying, Punna, you are wrong. You may be someone who works in a rice mill, who works early in the morning, late at night. But my monks are doing something harder. My monks are fighting against Mara, and they'll fight to the very end. It doesn't matter if it's night or day, whether it's raining or whether it's sunny, whether it's snowing or hailing, my monks will be fighting against Mara. Having said this, Punna's heart was filled with joy. She works early in the morning to late at night just to find a meal, whereas the Buddha's followers fight to the very end, not caring what time of day it is. That is his disciples. And so Punna was elated. She gave a loud applause, filled with joy, and she decided to ordain. At that moment, she became a Sotapanna as well. But you see, like we said in the beginning, right? Because of his bad merits, because of Mallaputha's bad merits, he's supposed to be blamed for things he hadn't done, right? So that's when it starts. You see, at that time, 2 monks were newly ordained, and their names were Venerable Mithya and Venerable Bummajaka. But you see, unfortunately, they didn't have much merits, and so therefore they didn't have good food to eat or have good places to stay, good dwellings. You see, normally monks would get ghee, oil, special curries, but to these 2 monks, they got normal, ordinary food of porridge and broken rice. You see, they weren't happy. They definitely weren't happy. And so after the meal, they returned from their alms round and they went and asked the senior monks what they got in the dining hall, in the dana hall. And so some of them said, we got some oils and some ghee and some special curries and this and this and this. And Mithya and Bummajaka were very, very jealous and said, we didn't get anything except some ordinary porridge and some broken rice. And so they were extremely angry and thought, who is in charge of all this? Who is in charge of designating meals? And they knew it was the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. And so they went and complained to him saying, Venerable Sir, everyone else gets all these good food, but yet we don't have these good food. Everyone gets these good dwellings, but yet we have terrible dwellings. What have we done wrong to you? But the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha stayed silent. He accepted anything they gave. He was like a wall. No matter how hard you throw a tennis ball at it, it doesn't affect the wall. Almost like a sponge. He absorbs it. Because he's not Arahant, right? He doesn't show anger. He doesn't show anything. Because he isn't angry. He stayed there, head down, accepting all their blame. And so, the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha, he decided that he's going to change this. And so at that time, there was a householder called Kalyana Bhattika, who gave regular meal of fine food to normally 4 monks. And so he made offerings into the dana hall together with his wife and children, and some of them offered rice and curries and oils and stuff like that. And so after he did that, he went and sat down he sat in front of the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha and started listening to his sermons. Having heard his sermons, in the end he said, Venerable Sir, I would like to give alms at my house. Can we have monks come into our house tomorrow? Okay. Tomorrow, Venerable Mithya and Bummajaka, they shall go to your house. At that moment, the householder was disappointed and thought, why should bad monks, these bad monks, who are they? They are terrible. I don't want to offer anything to them. And so he went back to his house and went straight to one of his servants, his female servants, and said, tomorrow, 2 monks are going to come to our house. Don't let them come into our house. Prepare seats in the hut outside and serve them anything that you're eating. Now, on the other hand, Mithya and Bummajaka, they were very happy. They're going to finally get some meals from a household that offers fine food. They'll serve us rice and curries and oils and special meats and stuff like that. They were so excited that they didn't fall asleep that night. And so the following morning they donned their robes, took their alms bowl and went to the house of the householder. And when the female servant saw them coming, she prepared some seats at the gateways and said, "Venerable sir, please sit here." And that made Metti and Bumbujiga very happy, thinking that, wow, they're now preparing the meal inside. We've come early. And they were dreaming, they were fantasizing what they're going to have. But unfortunately, these servants came and brought them some curry and some rice and gave it to them. Meals that only servants would have eaten. And these two monks were surprised. They asked, "But, madam, we have come for the regular meal. Like, why are you doing this? Like, what have we done wrong?" And she replied saying, "Because I was told. I'm doing this because I was told. So, please take our food and please take my food and eat it." Now, they remembered Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. He was the one who spoke with his householder. He must have said something bad about us. And so that's why he didn't offer us these good food. And so they felt dejected. And so they went back to the monastery. They stormed back to the monastery, put their bowls and robes back and sat aside the monastery. And they were silent, humiliated. They were extremely angry with the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. Just then, the nun, Metya, the Bhikshuni, approached them and said, "I pay my respects to you, Venerable sir." But they didn't respond. Hello? But yeah, still no response. Third time, second time, third time, she said the same thing. "I pay my respects to you, Venerable sir." But they still didn't respond. "Venerable sir, have I done anything wrong? Why aren't you responding to me?" And then they started saying, whining, "It's because we've been badly treated by the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha, and you're not doing anything about it." Now this nun was surprised, saying, What? I don't know, and what can I do about it?" "Well, if you like, you can make the Buddha expel him." "Expel him? What should I do? Like, how am I going to do that?" "Okay, here's the plan. Do you agree to help us?" "Yes, of course." You see, Metya, the nun, wasn't very smart or intelligent. She would do anything that they said. And so Metya and Bumbujiga explained, saying, "Go to the Buddha and say, 'Venerable sir, I have been abused by the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. I don't know what to do, so I came to you, Venerable sir.'" And so she agreed, saying, "Okay, I'll do that." And so she worshipped the Buddha and told the Buddha, "Venerable sir, the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha has abused me." And as soon as the Buddha heard this, he called the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha to come. And the gathering of the Mahasangha questioned Dabba Mallaputha. "Dabba, did you do this? Did you abuse this nun, Mitya?" The first thing Venerable Dabba Mallaputha says is, "Venerable sir, you know me." Do you see what he just said? "Venerable sir, you know me." Because the Buddha knows. He knows the Buddha knows. The Buddha knows him. And so the Buddha asked again, second and third time. He asked the same question and got the same response. "Dabba, don't give such an evasive answer. If it was done by you, say so. If it wasn't done by you, then say you didn't do it." And so he replied saying, "Sir, since I was born, I don't recall having a single thought of desire, even in a dream." Even in a dream. The Buddha addressed the monks saying, "Well, then, the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha is innocent. Please expel the nun, Metya." And he got up from his seat and entered his dwelling. And so the monks, Metya and Bumbujiga, said to them saying, "Don't expel her. She has done nothing wrong. Like we are the ones we told her to do it. We are the ones who told her. We are the ones who are angry with the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. So don't do it." And so the Buddha rebuked them. And so he laid a new rule in the discipline. You see, the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha was very close to be expelled from the ministry. And all he said was, "Buddha, you know me." That's all he said. The Buddha asked him 3 times. He said the exact same thing 3 times. And the 4th time, the Buddha said, "Dabba Mallaputha, if you've done it, say yes. If you haven't, say no." And he replied saying, "I've had a thought of desire." A thought of desire. Think about it. Think about it. He was so close to being expelled. Did he retaliate? Did he start shouting? Did he get angry? Did he get mad? No, because he knew that the truth cannot be hidden. As the saying goes, there's 3 things you can't keep hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. He he stayed silent. And the truth came out. And so he stayed silent, and the truth came out. And at the end, the Buddha gave a rule, a new rule. If a monk who is angry and displeased charges a monk with an offense, that means expulsion, aiming him to leave the monastic life, then after some time, whether he is questioned or not, it is clear that it was a lie, and he admits to his ill will. He commits an offense entailing suspension. But as Metteyya and Bumbujaka were the first ones to do it, they were not suspended. You see, not just Metteyya and Bumbujaka were ones blaming the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. Some people were saying that robes and alms and dwellings were given according to favoritism. He would give the monks who were closest to him good robes and good food and good dwellings, whereas people he didn't know, he would give terrible things. And the Buddha again asked the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha and clarified that no, he didn't do it like that. Now, I want you to step in the shoes of Metteyya and Bumbujaka. You see, they tried once and failed. Unfortunately, they didn't practice their path. Instead, the anger, the hatred started bubbling inside of them. And so they saw one day a goat, a male and female, so a goat and a doe, a she-goat, together. And just for fun, they named the male goat Dabba Mallaputha and named the doe, or the she-goat, Metteyya. And then they sent rumors saying, we had seen Dabba Mallaputha and the Venerable Metteyya together. Now monks were like, don't say such a thing. The Venerable Dabba would have never done something like that. Think about it. This is another lie. See, Bumbujaka and Metteyya, they are saying they saw the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha and the Venerable Metteyya together. They say they saw them with his own eyes, with their own eyes. So rumors spread. And when the Buddha asked the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha, and again the same thing happened. He asked 3 times. 3 times Dabba Mallaputha said, you know me, Venerable Sir, you know me very well. And again, because of that, he again called Metteyya and Bumbujaka, and he gave another rule. If a monk who is angry and displeased charges a monk with an offense that would lead to expulsion and aiming him to leave the monastic life, and after some time, whether he's questioned or not, it is clear that he is lying and he admits to his ill will, he would lead to an offense that would lead to suspension. But again, Metteyya and Bumbujaka, their plans failed again. Now, this hatred wasn't disappearing. Dabba Mallaputha's mind was pure. The Venerable Sir's mind was pure. Not a single dust of hatred. Not a single dust, a single speck of anger. Whereas the defiled minds of Venerable Metteyya and Bumbujaka were filled with anger and hatred. So he decided to do it one more time. This time, they had a friend who came to visit them. His name was Lichavi Vadda. And so Lichavi Vadda went to the 2 monks and asked them, Venerable Sir, how are you? No response. Venerable Sir, how are you? How's life been? Again, no response. And again he tried one more time and still no response, and so he asked, Venerable Sir, have I done something wrong? Please tell me my mistakes. I promise I'll fix it. They started saying, it's because of you, good friend, that we're being abused by Dabba Mallaputha, Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. Me? How is it my fault? Well, you're not doing anything about it. Well, what can I do? Good friends, Venerable Sir, I can't do anything about it. Why don't you try getting the Buddha to expel him? No, that's wrong. That's not right. Why should I get him expelled? Well, then you pick whose side you're on. Are you on our side, or are you on the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha's side? Venerable Sir, I will stay loyal to you. What do you want me to do? And so this Lichavi Vadda went to the Buddha and told the Buddha, Venerable Sir, my wife has been seduced, has been abused by the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. And so again, Dabba Mallaputha had been questioned. Again, the same thing. He said the exact same thing. You know me, Venerable Sir. You know me, Venerable Sir. You know me, Venerable Sir. Dabba, did you do it or did you not do it? Venerable Sir, I haven't had a thought of desire, aversion, delusion, even in a dream. And so the Buddha said, because of this, monks, I would let the order turn the Lichavi Vadda's bowl upside down, which means, may no monk go to his house for alms. If someone tries to receive gains from monks, if he tries to deceive monks, if he abuses, reviles monks, if he causes a break with monks, if he dispraises the Tathagata or the Buddha, if he speaks dispraise of the Dharma, if he speaks dispraise of the order, I allow you monks to turn the lay followers' bowl upside down, which meant they were not allowed to go to his place for alms. He was not allowed to talk to any of the monks. Hearing this householder Lichavi's heart almost stopped. He almost fainted on the spot. He didn't know what to do. Now no monks would speak to him. No monks would accept his alms. And so he went the next day. Vada Lichavi went with his family, with his friends, with relatives, dressed in white, in their best clothes, went and approached the Lord Buddha and said, Venerable Sir, I've been foolish, I've been misguided, I was wrong. It was wrong for me to frame the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha for something that he hadn't done. Please forgive me, I promise I would never do anything like this again. Friend, you've been fooled. You've been foolish, misguided. What you've done is wrong. But as you accept your mistakes, as you know what you did was wrong, I shall pardon you. Your bowl should be turned the right side up. And that moment, the Buddha turned to Venerable Ananda and said, tell the monks that the Vada Lichavi's house, he now has his bowl right side up. You see, the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha has been blamed so many times, but it wasn't over yet. You see, in the Jetavana monastery, the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha, he organized and coordinated the Dana hall. And he did it very well. But you see, again, some monks were jealous. A monk called Laludai, he was angry. He was sad. He was disappointed that every single day he comes to this Dana hall, all he gets is some broken rice and some normal curry. And so he lost his temper and went straight to some senior monks and said, Venerable Sir, is it Dabba Mallaputha that's the only one who's able to do that job? And so they replied saying, no. Do you want to take it? Do you want to take the job? And Laludai said, fine, I'll take the job. I can do a better job than him. And so the next day, the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha happily gave the responsibility to the Venerable Laludai. Because don't forget, responsibilities are burdens. So he was happy to give it away. And so Laludai started the day, but he couldn't do the job properly. Nothing was in order, nothing was organized. Younger monks would go behind his back and say, now Laludai is in charge of all this. The Dana hall looks like a war zone. It's very unclean, unhygienic. It sounds like a fish market. And so the Buddha, when he went past the Dana hall, heard this racket and asked Venerable Ananda, why are they making such a noise? Venerable Ananda replied saying, well, Laludai is now in charge of designating alms. But when Dabba Mallaputha, the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha was in charge, he did it properly. And so the Buddha said, Venerable Ananda, why don't we put Venerable Dabba Mallaputha back? And he told Venerable Ananda, this isn't something that happened only in this life, it's happened in life before as well. You see, a long time ago, in Benares, in Kasi, there was a king called Brahmadatta. And the Buddha aspirant was his valuer. He used to value horses, elephants, and jewels and golds and everything. He would give a good value for him. He would give a fair value. But the king was greedy. And so he thought, you know what? This valuer, if he values like this, soon I will have nothing. I'll have no money in my kingdom. I must get another valuer. Thinking this, he opened his window and looked outside on his courtyard, and he saw a man walking across. And so he asked this man, hey, you over there, do you want a job? Okay. Do you want to be the royal valuer? Your Majesty, I don't have any experience. Well, I don't need your experience. Can you be a valuer? Yes, Your Majesty. And because he has no experience and because he followed what the king said, he would fix a price, whatever he fancies. Like, not even thinking about what they really are worth. And so whatever price he gave, because he was a royal valuer, it was either that price or nothing. He would make everything very cheap. At that time, there was a horse dealer with 500 strong horses. And so this king sent his new valuer to give a value to these horses. And so the value he gave for 500 horses was a single bag of rice for 500 horses. And so he ordered it to be paid to this horse dealer and took these 500 horses. This horse dealer was now depressed. He didn't know what to do. He spent a lot of time, a lot of effort bringing up these 500 horses and to sell them for a single bag of rice. He went to the old valuer and asked him, "What can I do? This isn't right." And so this ex-valuer said, "Give that valuer a bribe. I would like to hear, and tell him I would like to hear your value for something else as well." And so this horse dealer, following the Bodhisattva's advice, bribed the man and questioned him. "You see, I gave you 500 horses for a single bag of rice. But what is the value for a single bag of rice?" And so this valuer thought about this and said, "It's worth the whole of Benares and all of its assets." And so the ministers started laughing, clapping, and saying, "We thought that the kingdom of Benares was one of the best kingdoms ever, but right now it's worth a single bag of rice. What talent does your valuer have? Well done. Where did you get him from?" And making jokes about it. So the king instantly fired this valuer and retook this ex-valuer. And the Buddha explained, saying, "I was the ex-valuer. The foolish valuer was Lalbai." You see, the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha has been accused for so many things. But each time he stayed silent. Because there are three things you can't hide: the sun, the moon, and the truth. And he knew that. So he kept silent. The truth will always come out. Not a single bit of hatred. Not a single bit of anger. He held no grudge against anyone. He is free from grudges. He can live happily. I don't know about you, but I want to be like that. I want to be free from anger. Let the whole world blame me for something I haven't done. But I will stay happy. I will stay calm. I will stay myself. You see, just because he scolded one Arahant, one life, a long time ago. Look about how much he was shamed and humiliated. But luckily, because he has no defilements, he wasn't ashamed or humiliated. Luckily. Because put yourself in his shoes. Imagine you want an Arahant, and someone blames you for abusing a nun, abusing a wife, not doing your job properly, going through favoritism. You would have dug your own grave. Just like an ostrich would put its head under the ground. You would try to dig a hole and cover yourself, hide yourself. But the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha, he attained Arahathood at 7 years old. He says, "My defilements are now burnt up. All new existence is destroyed. Like an elephant has broken chains, I live without constraints. Being in best Buddha's presence was a very good thing for me. The three knowledges are attained. I have done what the Buddha has taught." You see, he had won. He had won the battle. You see, when we do something, when we are blamed for something that we haven't done, we always fight back, trying to prove ourselves right. We didn't do it, but the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha won in a completely different way, the complete opposite way. He didn't do anything. Just sat there, silent. Soon, the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha realized that his life was ending. So he went the Supreme One in the bamboo woods at the squirrel feeding place, and worshipping sat one side and said, "My lifespan is ending. Please, can I have permission to go and pass away?" "I give permission," says the Buddha. Then the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha, after rising from the seat, worshipped the Supreme One and went up in the sky, and sitting cross-legged in the air, he entered the Teja Kasina, and after showing his supernatural powers, the fire consumed him, leaving no ash, nothing behind, not even any relics. That was the story of the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. I don't know about you, but just put yourself in his shoes for a moment. He is a hero, a superhero. Why? Because I don't know about you, but he could stay silent when everyone blames him for something that he hadn't done. He is able to stay calm. Nothing can hurt him. Nothing can make him angry, make him go mad. He's never had a single thought of desire, not even in a dream. At the age of 7, he became an Arahant. Just wow. Age of 7. Think about it. Well, how old are you? All because he protected his virtues. All because he protected his virtues until his very last breath. You see, after listening to the story of Dabba Mallaputha, now when someone comes and starts shouting at you, when someone comes and starts swearing at you, when someone comes and blames you, slaps you, hits you, does anything to you, in your head, just think of Dabba Mallaputha, the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha, and how he faced his problems. Put him in front of you. Just imagine he's in front of you, he's with you, and instead of you taking the blame, it's him. How would he react? How would he react in that situation? Whether it's your parents blaming you for something that you've done, whether it's a friend of yours, whether it's an enemy swearing at you, put the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha in front of you. Let him take the blame and see how he reacts. See how he would react. Make him your force field. Make him your shield. Be like him. Be like the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. You see, you now have a shield, an impenetrable shield, the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. See, these are the superheroes. If any of you are scared of the dark, remember Venerable Dabba Mallaputha. How he had lights emitting from his fingers. How he would guide the monks to safety, to their dwellings. If the world becomes too hard for you, if it all becomes too much for you, teachers shouting at you for not doing homework or anything, friends, family, mothers, fathers, anyone, bosses, colleagues, acquaintances, husbands, wives, grandparents, mothers-in-laws, fathers-in-laws, whoever, no matter what, if whatever they say becomes unbearable, put your shield up. Put your shield up. Put the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha in front of you. Let him take all the blame and see how he reacts. See how he reacts. The smile on his face would not disappear. In no circumstance will he retaliate. Would he say anything back? Would he backtalk to whoever said who blamed him? He would stay calm. His head would be filled with compassion towards that person. Be spreading loving kindness to that person. You see, that is something that normal heroes can't do. Whether you're talking about Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, whoever. Those are heroes, yes. But the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha, forget his supernatural powers. He's a strong brick wall. He's your defense. He's your force field. He's your shield. Use him. And the best part is, he'll never say no to you. Okay. This was a story of the Venerable Dabba Mallaputha, the Arahant who gets blamed for everything. Okay. Let's take a few moments to transfer merits and conclude. Let's take a moment to transfer merits we've all acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the noble triple gem, chanting Prith, listening to Dharma, engaging in various meritorious deeds today. First and foremost, let's remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of Lord Buddha's teachings. And with immense gratitude, let's transfer the merits to the Bhikshu, Bhikshunis, Upasakas, Upasakas, who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teaching of the Buddha, and pass it down to a noble generation of learned lineage in form of Tripitaka, which is thankfully available us today to study, to understand, to comprehend Dharma. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits that are required to all the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief prelates of all the chapters, who dedicated their lives to a noble path, committed themselves to the betterment of all sentient beings. Let's not forget that among them will be the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side, thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to Guru Sahib and all the monks resident at this monastery, as well as Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits and express our gratitude to all those who make great effort to disseminate the teaching of the Buddha, be that by translating during these sermons, sharing them out with others, inviting others to join them. May through the power of these merits, if any have been born in the willful plane, may they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May by the power of these merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble fourth path, and attain the supreme bliss Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits we will acquire to our devotees, friends of the monastery. For sake of merits, continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes every one of you who have contributed to the construction of the monastery, those of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes, medicine, as well as those who pass on the know and extend their well wishes. May the power of the merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble fourth path, and attain supreme bliss Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to our mothers, fathers, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employees, and to all those who have helped us, support us, assist us in any way, shape or form. By the power of these merits, may they be healed in physical and mental ailments. May they overcome obstacles in their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble fourth path, and attain supreme bliss Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits with devas, brahmins, spirits, demons, pranayans, sakradeva, as well as numerous gods and deities who have committed themselves to protect and fulfill the Sambuddha Sasana. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to our guardian deities who keep us the watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May the power of the merits, may the prosper divine power and wisdom, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble fourth path, and attain supreme bliss Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors who have predeceased us, to all those who have been family, friends, acquaintances in this infinitely long journey in samsara, and to all those who have helped us, support us, assist us in any way, shape or form. Let's take a moment to transfer merits to them. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to the armed forces as well as the police forces who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those who lost their lives in war be their friend or foe, rejoicing in the merits they've acquired today. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to all those lost their lives in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslide, pandemics, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who have been friends and family to us in the long journey samsara. Let's take a moment to transfer merits to them. May the power of these merits, if any have been born on the world plane, may they redeem themselves and be born on the blessed plane. May they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble fourth path, and attain the supreme bliss Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, let's all resolve, may the power and blessing of all the merits we acquire throughout the day, we bear witness the event of many hundreds of thousands of Arahants in the blessed land. And finally, may the power of all the merits required today, you and I and everyone who made this event a success, become Arahant Vanse and Arhat Mahin Vanse in this very life, in the air of the Gautam and Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all.